Welcome to setting up the 525 to be controlled by a Micrologix processor. We're going to use a 1100 today. It's the same thing as a 1400 and so forth. Setting up your drive, you're going to want to go. I made a video on setting these up before, but I'm just going to do a quick run back here to show you how to set these up correctly. So you'll enter in all your information in your motor, your acceleration, your decel, your min and max frequency, your stop mode, your start source, which is we're going to do it over Ethernet, your speed reference over Ethernet, and then you can set up the rest however you want to. Go to your properties, go to communications, and have your drive set up. Ours is at 206, so we'll be using 192, 168, 1206. So we can go ahead and get started. We're going to go ahead and make a brand new project. Open up your Micrologix 500. Select new. We're going to select the processor that I'm using. It's a 1763 and it is a Series B. Our Ethernet driver is going to be over Ethernet. If you haven't set these up before, I can do a different video, but I already had this one set up with an IP address ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and use the Ethernet IP driver, and then we can go out and find it so I can download to it. Alright, go to configuration. We're going to have to set up the processor for the right IP address. And since I already have it out on the network, we'll just run and look. We're using 200. So we'll go ahead and use that one. Sorry, wrong one. Go to channel 1. And we're not going to use boot P. We're going to go ahead and set it with its address. 192.168.1.200. Oops. Alright, I'm going to hit apply. Hit OK. Now you're going to want to set up your message files and your transfer files that we're going to need. So go ahead and we'll set up a message file. We'll have a few messages, so we'll just go ahead and give us 10 messages. We're also going to need the routing information file, so we're going to use a new one. Now we're not going to use the extended, we're just going to use the normal routing information. And we'll do the same thing there to match it up. Do a new integer file. We'll have, let's see, we'll do 100. We don't need that many, but I'd rather have more than we need. I believe that's all we're going to need at the moment. So the first thing we're going to need is we're going to need a timer to trigger the messages, and we're going to do a timer and message file, and then we'll add another file for doing controlling this drive. So we'll add a new rung in the right place. A timer. That's one thing that we did forget to go in and set up. It's only set you up with one. We want to go to properties. We're going to change that. And I add 40 just so that we have enough later if we ever need it. We use the first timer. And we're going to make this trigger quickly. You don't need to do it that fast, but it's just what we're going to do for this one. Go back to our timer. That way when the timer is done, it can reset itself. There. Helps if I select the right thing. That should be good. Check it, everything's fine. Do our first message. Alright, the first thing we're going to have to do is we're going to need to open up a timeout value. The drive is defaulted to 0, and before we can send any control data, we need to have a non-zero value there. And so we'll go ahead and put in a new message. We'll use the first message out of our message file. And then we're going to go ahead and use the same done timer bit from our timer so that we trigger the message. And we're going to change the first thing in the message from channel 0 to channel 1. And this is going to change to a 500 write. And we're going to use the first integer value, which is going to be 11.0. So it'll be the first one. And we're going to put a 5 here because that's in seconds, so that's got a 5-second timeout value. So we're going to write N11, and we're going to want to put it in to the drive table N42, or excuse me, 42.3. Now we need the routing information. So we're going to go to multi-hop. We're going to give the drive, if you remember when we set it up, it was 192.168.1.206. Now we can set up the routing table. We'll use the first element, which will be RI10 0. RI10:0. Now this message is set up and it's ready to go. Once you close this and we compile it with no error, when you open up your routing information table, it populates all the routing information that it needs to connect to the drive. So that was the first thing we did. The second thing, we need to add another message because we're going to want to tell this drive what to do. So basically we're going to do the same thing. I just copied the one from above. We'll change the message number to a 1 because that would be the next message in line. I'll open up and show you. Instead of dragging it, we just changed it. Open up the screen. Everything should be the same except for the file that we want to write. So the next one that we're going to want to write, this is going to be our control values that we're going to write to the drive. It's going to be N11.1. And we're going to want to write those to. Now in the PDF that come with the drive, or you download from Rockwell, it is going to show you that we're going to want to write the logic command word, and it's N41.0. Now later when we go to write the reference, Rockwell has an error, and this should have been 41.2. We'll get to that here in just a moment. So we're going to want to write to 41.0, and we're going to want to change our routing information because we're going to want to use a new routing information file. Multi-hop still the same. I'm going to close this. I'm going to go ahead and verify it, compile it, and make sure our routing information set up. Same thing. So that anything that we write now into N11.1 is going to transfer to N40.1.0, and that is the logic command word. Alright, we're gonna put in one more message We'll probably put in 2 more, but for right now we're going to do 1 more. We're going to do another write, and what we're going to write is we're going to write the speed reference. So we'll do this. We'll do the same thing. We'll just copy the rung above it. We'll paste it below it, and we're going to change the message to the next number, which is message 9-2. And we're going to go in. It's a write, and we're going to write this one from 11-2. We're going to change the control word, or the, excuse me, not control word, the routing information, the next one in line. And we're going to write this to, if you remember, we'll go back and look at our, we're going to want to write the reference. So we're going to want to write, like the PDF says 42.2, that is incorrect, it needs to be 41.2. So I've set 41.2. Make sure multi-hop, everything's the same there. We update the message, we're still doing it right, and we're using the same port. Make sure everything's fine. Pilot. Go back, check the routing information, and it made it. Now we're gonna do one read. We're gonna read the reference value so you'll be able to see the speed of the drive accelerate. So we're going to copy this, we're going to paste it. Now there's going to be, the only difference in this is going to be the fact that we're going to go in, we're going to change, of course, the message number, the routing information number, and we're going to change it to a read. And we're going to read it, and we're going to put the information into N11.3. That's all we're going to need for that. Verify, make sure everything is good. No errors came up. And now we're going to add a new program file. I'm going to call it control. We're going to control the 525. We want to put a JSR in, so we want to jump to that subroutine. And it is ladder 3. It's okay. So it's U3. Make sure that's okay. Everything's good. And then it starts over. Bing. Alright, we're going to go ahead and set up your control rungs. So we're going to want to stop and a start right out the door. And we're just going to do these simple. So add a rung. And I went through and I already preset up the binary. So all these, if you look down here in the description as you go through them, I already wrote those down based on the way we're going to write them out. And then you can add them on the other one. I'll show you how to write a description because we'll do the first one. So we're going to use the first one here, which is the stop. And then we're going to switch over to your integer file because we're going to write it to N11. Remember, what I mean by that is we're writing it to where we set it up in it's easier where we set it up in the message. So if I remember correctly, we're going to the control word, and we used N11.10 or 11. Excuse me, N11.1. And we're just going to go verify. And to do that, you just go back to your message routine, go to the second message, because that's when we set up for control, and it was. Because we're writing to N41, and if you remember in the PDF, we'll go back to, it shows you that, I don't have it open in this one. right here, N410 is where we want to write it for the logic command word, and that is so referenced off of the logic command word. And there's two of these, one for velocity and one for positioning. 90% of us will probably only use velocity, so we'll keep C122 at 0. Otherwise, you can go into your drive and change it to a 1, and that's for positioning. I'm going to minimize these so we can reference them here after a bit. But we're going to go back and we're going to write all our commands into N11.1. So we'll open up N11, and then we're going to highlight N11.1, and then we're going to go over here and switch it to binary. So that gives you all your bits in that array. So the first one, 0, is stop. We'll add another rung, and we're going to want to we're going to want to put a start. So go back to N11. So the start's going to be here, and switch back over to binary, and the first one in there is the stop. So in your integers, and the one that you're going to write, if you want to label these, the description can be stop. So I just put a description in there. I usually write them as symbols. And as you go through each individual one, they'll change. But drag this up for our start drive. We're also going to want to put in a direction that we want the drive to run. So back to the same principle. Select over. We got jog, clear faults, and a forward. We'll just use the forward position. So that was 4. So when we bring up your integer file, we're going to want to use 4. Of course, you can label it too. I probably won't do all these, but I'll just do a few, just so we know when we're looking at it what we have. And we're going to want to put in one more, just in case we fault the drive. We want to be able to clear the fault. So we're going to add the clear faults in. Bring up our, we'll back up one that was 3. And so we'll pull up the integer file and we'll use the corresponding one, which would have been 3. Oops. Alright. One more that we're going to put in a move. Because we want to control the speed. And we're going to use a speed reference to do that. So we'll add one more rung. We're going to put in a move instruction. Pull up our integer file. So we used this one right here. And it's not going to let me do that. So, decimal. I'll drag this. There we go. Well, let's move it down one, and we're going to change this to 10. So that's the one we're going to write it into, and they'll transfer it to here, and then the message will send it to the drive. We'll check everything we just did. Everything came out a-okay. Compile it, and we should be good. We're going to add one more right here below it, because we got the reference speed back from the drive, and we want to see it actually ramp and excel and do the things that we say it's doing. So we use another move instruction so we can see it on the screen. Alright, well, we made a mistake right here. It's supposed to be 2. Because that's going to write the speed. The next one is here, and it's going to be a 3. And we'll just write it to an 11. 11. And that should be everything you're going to need for this to work correctly. Just to show you that you can do it, you can bring the stuff up, you can run it all through your Micrologix processor. May not have been so clear through this, but if you have any questions, you can send me some questions or write some comments, whatever. We're going to go ahead and download this to the processor. System comms, and it was 200, and we're going to do a download. Maybe. Oh, I didn't save it. Alright, we're going to say this is a Powerflex 525. And yes, we want to proceed with the download. Yep. Yes. Going online. Yes. Let's go back over and make sure that all our messages are updating. And that's back in file 2. And it doesn't look like we have any errors. Seems like everything's working the way it should there. This is not the most practical way to do messaging timers. Just putting that out there. So let's go to the drive. The drive probably has a fault on it. No fault on the drive? Nope, no fault. Alright. So we'll go back over to the control ladder. We're going to want to give it a speed. So we're going to want it to go, let's say we're going to run it at 3115 for hertz. So it's going to know it's going to run at 31.15 hertz. We'll bring up this table here, and we will put a 1 in the start to start the drive. And as you see on the screen right here, you watch the drive ramp up to 31.5. We'll change it on the fly right here. We'll change it to 55.16. And you see it ramp the speed of the drive up. Let's drop it down to 10.12 hertz. You see it does there. Let's go ahead and open up our connected components workbench, and I'll show you so you can see it on here as well. And it's at reference, and we're running 10.12 hertz. Minimize that a little bit. I don't know if I can get this quite nice enough on both spots. to possibly do. Let's scroll this over some. Only try to put it above it here. Here, excuse me. I can do this. I forgot. It's been a while since I've done anything with Logix 500. Okay, scroll this one down a little bit. Stop the drive. I'm going to remove the 0. Of course, the drive's still running because you didn't enter a stop command. Now we're going to stop the drive. Drive decelerated down and stopped. So, and as you can see on the left, it stopped. We're going to start it again, but we're going to run it up to a full 60 hertz. So let's change that to 6,000 and go back here. Let me put a 1 and start, and you can watch it accelerating. Now it's at where you wanted it to be. Pull that down just a hair more. There. Top. Again, to stop. And I'll show you what clearing the faults does. Let's pop that Ethernet cord up. We'll just give it an Ethernet fault. It didn't fault, did it? There we go. Yeah. So you can tell we unplugged the Ethernet cord, and now it's going to try to reconnect to it. It'll take just a second. There we go. Now we're faulted. Now I'll show you over here by clearing the faults. Go to B3, put a 1, clear. Clear the fault, clear on the drive, stop command, and then start command. Accelerate up to 60 hertz. Yeah, that's all it is. That's all there is to it. There is for reading the status of the drive. You just do the same thing we did for reading Just do the same thing we did for reading the reference speed. You just put in the 41. Which one was it? Let's go back and look real quick. Let me fix this. Range default. Okay. Back to file. What we did for writing. We wrote to N41, and you'll want to just throw one in to read from it, and then you can go through and do the same thing for picking out the bits, and that'd be, is the drive ready to run? Yes, no. Is the drive active? What is commanded direction? It'd be a 0 for reverse, 1 for forward. Actual direction tells you which way it's actually rotating. Is the drive accelerating? You can have feedback for accelerating. For decelerating, a fault, at speed, main frequency, not controlled by active communication, or it is being controlled by your active comm. Operation command, is it being manually done, or is it being controlled by your active communication? And then your digital inputs back to the drive. And those are things that you can get back from it under velocity. The other one would be the position feedback, accelerating, reverse, travel position, not faulted, etc. It'll have the rest. I will, at the end of this, I will put up a few pictures to show you what those are out of the PDF manual. Also, I will give you in the comment section, I will leave the way to get to the PDF that has it all on it, and they're on page 136. But I'm gonna go ahead and go offline. Yes. because we can't add a message online with this one. So we'll go ahead and we're going to do one more message. I don't want to do that. I'm going to copy. See. The message 4. We'll change this to a 4. We'll change this to 0. And change this to 4. Multi-hop's the same. Everything's good. Check. Check. We'll do a download. This might actually throw the drive into a fault. No, you won't need to. It should do it right because it lost communication with the drive. Nope, it didn't. That's all right though. Now that we have a message coming back reading, we'll go back to control. Let's add a few below. We'll just put in 2 rungs. And all we're going to do is have some feedback. We'll use integer file. These are all full because I only added 1. That's fine. So we'll just use 90. And we'll use the first one. We'll look at it in binary. And we'll label this fault. So the first one will be, is it faulted? And the second one we will set up to, ooh, yeah, I didn't do that right. No, we did. Never mind, because we're writing this. Active. And then I'll just add one more to show you accelerating. And we sent those, of course, to the same file. And we did it in 4. So, is the drive active? Oops. Faulted is 7. Oh, we did that backwards, didn't we? And then we want accelerating. And that would be 4. Make sure it's good. Looks fine. Accept. Let's accept. Compile. I'll do that for all 3. Check. Check. Compile. Okay. Right now we know that the drive is active. The drive is running. We're going to stop the drive. Let's minimize this just a little bit so I can get up towards the top. Alright, we're going to stop the drive. Let's toggle it. Drive is no longer active. As you can see, it went out. Turn that one off. We got 2-second accelerate, so when I start this you should see accelerating and active. And that's it. That's all there is to setting it up with the Micrologix 1100. If you have any questions, just leave them in the comments and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Again, thank you for watching.